Hey guys, Drifter here. Do you remember that sandbox map in Call of Duty World War II where everybody played as little green army men?
This free new sandbox map. No, really, it's a sandbox, and you play as a teeny tiny toy soldier.
Have you ever wondered what it would be like if somebody took that theme and most of its gameplay and carried it over to Warzone? Well, your answer is basically Mini-Royale. It feels a lot like Warzone with a few mechanics from other games and an absolutely hilarious theme where you play in a messy house as a little green army man trying to be the last guy standing. And the shocking thing about this game is that it's actually pretty fun. The game mechanics are familiar enough to quickly hop into, and the gameplay is responsive enough to feel natural. On top of all that, it's just incredibly fun because you're tiny. I can't get over the novelty of taking cover behind the Lego blocks or toilet paper rolls, or plating up behind the Barbie castle while a whole squad pushes me. All the cover, all the areas, all the interactions are very unique, and I had a ton of fun playing this game, probably more than any Battle Royale in recent memory, and was very shocked to discover just how tiny and independent of a developer it was that created Mini-Royale. Mini-Royale is a true independent or indie BR, so today we're going to do a quick good, bad, and ugly review of the game, and I'll have a few fun moments for you at the end. So in the good section of this review, while I do want to talk about the theme, and we will quite a lot, I wanted to start off by talking about the gameplay mechanics. Third-person mode is an option in this game, but it's buggy, so don't even bother playing it. 99% of the player base is in first-person mode, because first-person mode is surprisingly smooth and fluid-feeling in terms of shooter mechanics. It feels like a reasonably polished FPS game, and my character responds pretty quickly to inputs. Aiming mechanics are pretty similar to Call of Duty Warzone. You have your aim down sights, you have your hip fire that's less accurate. Some of the weapons seem like they are hit scans, but they do seem to be projectiles. You notice that a lot more on sniper rifles when you're going for long range shots. The sprinting mechanics are very similar to Warzone, along with the way you plate and heal yourself. The actual health system works a little bit more like Apex with big and small med packs. And on the mention of Apex, every single character in the game can climb straight up a really incredible distance like Reaper, and they all have a grapple hook like Pathfinder, though I will admit the cooldown is longer and the grapple hook doesn't it's not quite as robust, but it still works really well. And between the mantling and climbing and all that kind of stuff, there's a surprising amount of mobility on the map. It gives you the freedom to push people very quickly by mastering the movement mechanics, or escape a squad hunting you down with some very clever grapple, parachute, and climbing mechanics that perhaps your pursuers have not mastered. So basically, the hunting and being hunted mechanics work really well in this Battle Royale, and it ends up feeling Apex adjacent sometimes because of the movement. And as a side note, I do think that the grapple is really well designed. It's not too powerful, it's mostly for verticality, and it's really, really loud. So if you're up on a building, tactically holding a position and not camping, and somebody tries to grapple up to you, you'll definitely hear their grapple. The grapple's very loud. The same when you want to push people up a building. They have all sorts of opportunity to hear you zipping up. Everybody will come chase you down. So I think that's a good balance to it. Guns feel incredibly realistic for being in the hands of tiny green army men, and they're relatively easy to use and didn't have any weird surprises for me. The default keybinds were pretty good, and all of this is to say that the base gameplay punches way above its pay grade, and it's just plain fun. So now let's talk about the theme, which I think is what really makes this game exceptional. It's incredibly novel and fun for me to play as a little green army man in a messy house. I had a blast fighting around the bread loaves, encountering gigantic mice, or taking cover behind a Lego castle, or diving right into an enormous bathtub. Every gunfight feels very unique because your environment is so disorienting. And I also think that the game just looks beautiful in its simplicity. Mini-Royale's simplicity has two very important effects on the gameplay. First of all, it's a very lightweight game that is very easy to run on just about any PC. I think that most people will be able to get outrageous frame rates on this game, even with just basic graphics cards, because the graphics are extremely simple. Secondly, and more importantly, because of the theme, player visibility is better than any other BR on the market. There aren't many dark spots or shadowy areas for people to hide in. Almost everybody is bright green, or if they paid for some of the extra skins, they might be a bright pink or purple or orange, but they still stick out. Every enemy player stands out distinctly from the background, and the background of the map itself is also mostly made out of bright primary colors, which makes enemies pop even more. Yes, there are smoke grenades, there are corners to hide in, there are stealthier paths to take, but for the most part, enemy visibility is very high, and it's not going to surprise you. On the topic of visibility, audio works surprisingly well. You can definitely hear the gunshots in the proper direction. You can hear footsteps when people are sprinting up to you, but not when they're crouching, exactly like a Battle Royale should be. If you want to go fast, you go loud. If you want to go slow, go silent. I think that's a very simple balance that a lot of BRs seem to be missing these days. And one gameplay mechanic that I enjoy is that the out-of-bounds gas is very deadly. The gas will kill you very quickly, so you can't screw around with it. And I wish that more Battle Royales took the gas this seriously, because I really hate getting killed by gas campers. I really hate people that wait until the gas is already on them to begin their rotation. I feel like it kind of screws up the flow of the game, so any Battle Royale where the gas is really deadly, I'm probably going to support that. Mini-Royale is completely free to play. You don't have to pay for this game. You can just download it on Steam, and you don't have to register accounts anywhere or do anything funny like that or have its own second launcher. It just boots up like a normal game. It's about 15 gigabytes in size. It runs really lean, so you can download and play pretty quickly from basically any computer. Match times are really short too, about 9 to 15 minutes depending on the match, so it feels very casual. It feels more like a game of COD and less like a 40-minute match of survival. And on the subjects of matches and matchmaking, I wanted to point out that while matchmaking, if you click on the eye for info, the game will show you how many players total are online, how long it is expected for you to find a match, and the public-facing MMR that you're going to be matched at. It shows you your skill rating right there while you're matching, and I really wish that Call of Duty or a lot of other games would show you what your actual MMR is. Mini-Royale has you covered on that. You know exactly what elo you're playing at and who it's trying to match you with, and I know some people would prefer it to be completely random, but man, at least that transparency is there and it seems fair. And the final thing I would like to emphasize in the good section of this review is that the overall gameplay is more fun than it should be. Like, I'm being serious when I said I had more fun playing Mini-Royale than almost any other BR recently. I got my whole gamut of experiences. I got to experience really casual players that were easy to wipe and fun to kill, and then I got to face really sweaty players that made me kind of fear for my life and allowed me to test my skill. It's new enough and disorienting enough where I felt pressure to stay alive again, which is fun, but I also realized I could play a little aggressive during the insurgents part of the game and just push people. Mini-Royale allowed me to smile and laugh and just have a great night gaming with very few complaints, so I'm very happy about that. And before we move into the bad section, I wanted to give a little shout out to today's sponsor, Logitech G. If you're looking for a new headset, especially if you're a console gamer that'll work on anything, I'd recommend the A50X. The A50X is compatible with Xbox, PlayStation, PC, Nintendo Switch, your cell phone. It takes analog inputs, it takes USB inputs, it hooks up wirelessly. It's pretty much a Swiss Army knife of a headset. It can literally handle everything and has its own audio mixer. You'll find links down there below, and of course my code will save you 5% off. Now let's talk about the bad parts of Mini-Royale. The first part of the game is basically Warzone Resurgence, except you will resurge with melee weapons only and not like pistols or machine guns or something like that, which I found very annoying in Resurgence. And I totally understand this is a good thing for some people, and it lets you get a little combat in without feeling too scared of wasting your time. I get why people love this. And I can even agree that sometimes it's fun to drop in and play aggressive and rack up your kills before the respawns are disabled, but it does run into a similar problem that Call of Duty Resurgence does, where people in the war zone are just kind of landing on top of you. In this instance, they're landing on top of you only with batons, but they are kind of landing in all the time, which is very annoying. The player count isn't particularly high, and by player count, I mean number of players in a match, so there's just a handful of squads on the map respawning over and over again for about the first 5 minutes before the respawns are disabled. That does mean sometimes they'll come back to get you for vengeance instead of just being full dead like they should be. And I think it's also a bad thing that you can't buy teammates back after they've been eliminated. Once the resurgence part of the game mode is over, there is no mechanic to restore a fully dead teammate to life. And I know that some people really appreciate that hardcore aspect of a battle royale, but I don't think it fits the more casual nature of this game. Another bad thing about the game is that there are built-in mechanics for shops to go buy stuff from, and also upgrade machines that look suspiciously like the Pack-a-Punch machines from Call of Duty. All of these run on dog tags that you pick up like a little currency, but the problem is that the areas are not particularly clearly labeled, so it's not obvious where the machines are. They sometimes don't look that different or distinct from the other toys in the environment or toys that you can interact with. I'm not really thinking about picking up the dog tags too much because most of the stuff I would buy from the shop isn't very useful. The guns take a little while to upgrade. They're a little bit random. There's a slot machine element to it. And it just doesn't feel like a part of the game that I really interacted with much because it was just easier and faster to kill people and take their loot. On a similar note, weapons can only take a few attachments. You've got just a handful of attachment slots, and those attachments are very rare. If you get a sight or a suppressor or a compensator or anything for your gun, you're already just head and shoulders above the rest of the lobby. You pretty much either have to get very lucky with these, spend a lot of money in the shop to maybe get a sight, or more likely just get them from killing people. I do think the developers could be a little bit more generous with the loot tables and buy stations so that we could get slightly better gear very slightly faster, but it doesn't have to be like Warzone loadout level crazy. Another bad thing is the gameplay mechanics. And I know I praised the gameplay mechanics earlier, but I want to emphasize here that they're not fully polished. As you've probably already seen in some of the gameplay, it can get a little bit janky. A lot of this has to do with weird animations, maybe trying to do things too fast, an animation that doesn't exactly match what you're trying to do with your player's hands or the action you're trying to take. Sometimes there's little oddities with the HUD, especially when reviving people. That part I got a couple of little bugs on. And it feels like a first-person shooter game that has the right idea, but they didn't have the time to polish the mechanics. So imagine Apex Legends and a little bit more alpha kind of state. I'm going to give the team a pass for this because, again, it's a truly tiny, independent developer. They're trying to get this game off the ground, sell some battle passes, get some resources to develop stuff. I know they didn't have a team of 100 employees to do QA on the game. They just had to make it as good as they could themselves with limited resources. But I want to clarify, in the bad section of the review, that means that smaller elements of gameplay are not going to feel AAA. It's going to be a little bit janky. And then finally, there's one big problem in the ugly section, which is that player count is very low as of the time of recording this video, which is, I'm recording this probably about a week before it comes out. So a week ago, player count was 700 total players at night. And on the topic of recording early, if you've watched this far into the video, you're probably a super fan, so I wanted to let you know that channel members get early access to content like this days or weeks early, and frequently get extended cuts of certain videos or 18+ unrated cuts for some of the spicier content I've been making and will be making in the near future. So I'm going to be expanding the members section in the future, but for now I just thought it was worth mentioning. So yeah, Mini-Royale has an extremely low player count. Given that the game is already free to play, and I think it's early access, but let's be real, this is basically full release, I'm going to assume that the player count isn't going up a whole lot. The developers put in a supporter pack, a rudimentary battle pass, there's a handful of paid cosmetics and paint buckets, and things for you to spend money on to support the game. But with 700 active players, you're going to have to sell a lot of them. We're going to have a really high rate of spending. But when we were playing the other night, it didn't look like many players were buying. It's probably because most players can tell the game is not likely to survive on less than 1,000 active users at any given time, and they don't want to spend their money on microtransactions that won't be good for very long. So, like me, many people chose not to buy, and I wish that wasn't the case. I wish the game was a little bit more popular because Mini-Royale is extremely fun. I really enjoyed myself while playing it, and I would prefer to see a world where Mini-Royale goes on to be at least a medium level of success. However, as of right now, it's looking rough. So if you want to play, you better hop on and play now while the getting's good. And that's all for this video. This is normally where I would wrap up the review, but today I wanted to offer you a few minutes of fun moments during the capture session just so that you can see some of the positivity we had going on, just a little bit of happiness here at the end. But otherwise, Drifter out. Oh, the colorful team. People. Oh, they're on my dick is where they're at. Come on, buddy, push me. Oh my god, dude!
Just
I thought I had the right gun to just bamboozle him, and I did not. Oh, dude, it's a gaming keyboard. Check it out. They got RGB and everything on this.
Yeah, the mouse pad must be a Razer because it has that lighter on the side of it.
Imagine if you could play the game, you could just like W forward, forward, forward. Just sprint over here. You're like, hold up, stand still, enemy. We're gonna pow, pow. This is very fun. I think this is great. This is the warm-up arena? It's a kitchen.
Yeah, you won't. Yeah.
Oh, Christ. Panda, somebody's gonna put me in a sandwich. I'm gonna get a drift loaf over here.
Never say that again. First 20 gifted gets a night alone with J-Hub.
No, that's already drifts. That's all drifts right there.
Dude, I wish I could buy cereal this size. I'm a cereal goblin. I'll eat so much of it, even though I know it's
love
unhealthy.
Cereal.
But you see this?
Fuck
see
you
this?
with your it's unhealthy. You buy all the garbage healthy
Wheat
shit.
cereal.
Don't
Even the garbage healthy shit from Nature's Path is like 80% sugar. It's just
No,
oats
it's
and
not.
sugar.
There is no sweetness in your cereals. I've had a lot of them. There's only sadness. What is wrong with you?
Fine, then pick a place to
Sadness is
land that's not
insane.
sad instead of cereal shaming me.
Thank you for the resub. Appreciate you. What do you mean, damn? Oh, me going off on drift? Well, he has poor food choices. Okay.
Let's take this goofy revolver.
It's because his body's weak and frail. He has to be the unhealthy.
I know.
Oh
He
my
can only
God.
get the unhealthy food with his strong hand.
You saying the unhealthy food is too heavy to lift?
For you, yes. It's too
Like,
dense.
I'm so fucking weak that the cereal spoon is a significant challenge. It used to be.